everyone, I'm Lindsay McKenzie and I'm a technical agronomist with Channel in Southern Illinois, and today I want to touch on some corn foliar diseases that we can potentially see this upcoming summer. So thinking about the spring that we've had, and it's been pretty crazy and some of it is still going on. When we think about how many planting dates that we've had since the end of March, our crop is going to be in all different stages throughout the summer. So scouting for pests and disease, we're going to have to be looking for everything for the rest of the summer just due to those different crop stages. So the first corn foliar disease that I want to talk about is gray leaf spot. So gray leaf spot, pretty common in Southern Illinois. It really likes those warm and humid conditions, which is pretty typical, a pretty typical summer for us. And so the identifying factors that we need to look for are the rectangular lesions, and they will run parallel with the veins of the corn leaf. And so we'll look for those rectangular lesions. They're going to be a brown gray color, and what we typically see is that it starts in the bottom canopy and continues to move upward. The reason that we see this is the inoculum that is present in the soil. Typically after a rain, that inoculum will splash up into the bottom canopy and then continue to move upwards throughout the growing season. So thinking about management recommendations that we can use to manage gray leaf spot, number one in season is fungicide use. So typically we like to see that first application at that VTR1 time frame. We can push it a little bit if needed, but in season, fungicide, number one option. Now looking outside of the growing season, there are a couple cultural practices that we recommend that you can use to manage the inoculum load. The first one is crop rotation. So putting soybeans in a cornfield, what we're doing when we do that is we are not providing a suitable host for that pathogen. So it is not able to increase that inoculum load in soybeans. And so giving it that break with that soybean crop helps decrease or maintain a lower load, inoculum load. The second is tillage. And with tillage, we're just pushing or trying to bury that inoculum deeper into the soil profile. And so the third one would be genetics. And we do have ratings for gray leaf spot for our hybrids. And so if we're going into a corn on corn situation, for example, we wouldn't want to place a hybrid there that doesn't have great tolerance for gray leaf spot. Now, the second disease I want to talk about is one that's a pretty hot topic, and it's one that we have seen pretty explosively in 2018 and 2021 in Central Illinois is tar spot. And so I know in Southern Illinois last year it was present, but didn't appear until after black layer, so not a concern whenever we think about yields. But with the crop being in all different stages this year, this is one that we do need to scout for this year. And the environment that this pathogen thrives in is cool temperatures, 75% relative humidity, and greater than 7 hours of leaf wetness. So if we think back to 2018 and 2021, looking at previous weather data, we had some cool, wet Junes. And those are the years that we saw tar spot really explode in Central Illinois. So just thinking about the weather patterns that we've been in this year, we have had some conducive environments for tar spot, and it has been found in Illinois, in Southern Illinois. And so if you aren't familiar with tar spot and you're going to scout, here's a few things that you need to look for. The lesions that you're going to find possibly on the leaves are not going to be completely circular. They're not going to be perfectly circular. So another thing that I recommend you do is lick your finger and rub the lesion that you think may be tar spot. And if the lesion rubs off, then it's just fly frass. You don't have to worry, you don't have tar spot. But if it doesn't wipe off, then you are looking at tar spot. There are 3 different types of lesions that we have seen in the past few years, and the first is what we call the classic tar spot lesion, and it just looks like you went up to a corn leaf and had a paintbrush of black paint and you just flicked it on the leaf and you just have small specks of black. The second is a fisheye lesion, and so there will be the black typical tar spot lesion, but around it will be a necrotic halo, and that's what we call the fisheye. The third is the diamond shaped, and as the season progresses, that black lesion will continue to elongate into what we say is the diamond lesion. Now, management recommendations that we have for tar spot: number one, use a fungicide. The explosiveness of tar spot reminds me of southern rust, but the way that it overwinters in the soil is much like gray leaf spot. So definitely in-season fungicide application. The second out-of-season recommendation that we have is crop rotation. Again, soybeans are not a suitable host for tar spot, so using that soybean crop to suppress or keep that inoculum load manageable. That's what we're after with soybeans. And then tillage, again, to bury that inoculum down in the soil profile. And I will have a link later, but there is a website that you can use to track tar spot throughout Illinois, but I will have that link at the end of the video. Now, the final disease that I want to talk about is rust. And common rust, just to go over its identifying symptoms, it's going to have dark brown or red pustules. Those pustules are going to be located on both sides of the leaf, and the clusters are going to be more scattered if we're comparing this to southern rust, which is a concern whenever it comes to yield. So focusing more on southern rust, it favors those warm, high humidity conditions, which again, in Illinois, that is a typical summer for us. And so to compare to common rust, the identifying symptoms to look for with southern rust is the pustules are going to be a bright orange color. Those pustules are going to be located on the top side of the leaf instead of both sides. And the clusters are going to be very, very close together compared to the common rust, which are scattered. In season, of course, fungicide. Whenever we know southern rust is coming up, especially if we are going to have a very active hurricane season. And again, I will post a link to a website where we can track the movement of southern rust. But up here in Illinois, the fungus is unable to overwinter, and so that's why it relies on those active hurricane seasons to move that fungus through the states and up north. So the final thing I want to touch on is fungicide application and timing. Now, typically we like to see that first fungicide application at that VT-R1 time frame. And if you're wondering when to stage your crop for VT, whenever you look at that field, if the majority of it you can see tassels starting to show, then you're looking at your VT stage. Now, we can push this fungicide application if we don't see any disease. We can push it to R1 or on the later half of R1. But if we do see severe disease this year, we might want to think about and consider a second fungicide application, which we would target for that R3 timing, which is critical for kernel fill. So just a few key things that I would like for everyone to remember from this video. If you don't remember anything else, yes, we talk about tar spot a lot and you'll see it on the news, but don't forget about the other diseases out there. Gray leaf and southern rust can also cause significant yield loss in our corn crop. So let's not get so tunnel visioned on tar spot, and just remember there are other things out there that can cause yield loss. The second thing, scouting is going to be key this year, especially with everything that's been going on with planting season getting drug out so late and the crops being in all different stages. Scouting your crops before that fungicide application is going to be very important. That way we know what disease we're looking at and how we need to manage it correctly. And then the third thing, ideally VTR1 is going to be that target timing for that fungicide application. And if we need to go make a second, we're going to be shooting for R3. At the bottom of this slide, this is the link to the website that I was talking about earlier. You can go in and you can track the movement of southern rust and tar spot, and they also have a tab for gray leaf spot. Now, with all that being said, if you get out and you're scouting your corn and you think that you have found gray leaf or southern rust or tar spot, or even if it's any other kind of question relating to insect pressure, chemical damage, you name it, always feel free to reach out to your local seed pro or your channel FSR, and they would be more than happy to come out and take a look. And also feel free to contact your local channel agronomist. And with that being said, everyone have a great rest of your summer and be safe.